meeting to order. I invite you to join with me in the invocation. Dear Lord, we come to you asking a healing prayer for our country. In a time of division, we look to you to heal the wounds that separate us. Grant us compassion for those less fortunate. Show us the way to make their lives less difficult and more fulfilling. Be with our first responders, families, and communities as they rebuild from the effects of the hurricane. Strengthen our schools, the teachers, and the students that need your intervention to find ways to improve the many issues that face our students daily. Guide them to know the comfort of your touch and healing hands. In a world of confusion and disagreement, the only constant is the knowledge of your love for all your children. Continue to hold us in your hands as we walk through life with the gifts you have given us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Yeah. Number 3, approval of the minutes. Consider approval of the September 18th regular session and September 18th closed session minutes.
Move to approve.
I had one question on there. Under the, I can't find it yet. I asked Michael about it, where it's talking about the boarding kennel the last time. Hold on just a minute, I'll find it. Under announced delegations, where it's the zoning amendment request, it says boarding kennels are currently now allowed in downtown CBD. Are they now allowed or not allowed? Is that?
It should be not allowed. Is that correct, Kevin?
Should be not. Okay, I'll make that correction. And I promise I'm not going through nitpicking these things. I just jumped in.
Mr. Aldridge, would you make that motion with that correction?
Just one other little small correction. Although I do concur with her comments, but I think it was Councilmember Howell that congratulated Colleen Conroy on her win for the Audience Choice Award for Dancing with the Stars instead of me. You know.
And while you're doing that, Lisa, congratulating Lisa on the play at Central School. Yeah. So if we're fixing, it doesn't make any difference to me, but
no.
Thanks.
Does your motion include those corrections?
Yeah.
What the Sioux actually did.
Motion by Councilmember Aldridge to approve that with those corrections. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Townsend. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing. We have a current public hearing that was left open from a previous meeting to consider changes to various regulations and definitions for dwelling. We're going to receive the public comments tonight, but we're going to hold off on the vote, and we'll talk about that a little later. Anyone here who cares to speak for or against?
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Townsend to close the public hearing. Second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Come on up, Kevin. Kevin and I were speaking today, and this is going to be the first of many changes that he is going to be bringing before us for the UDO that we've been asking him to work on. As we do these, we really need to have work sessions rather than an open meeting to talk through this. We spent 45 minutes at the last meeting, and we really did not ask any questions, so we need time to ask questions. We will have public hearings, but we need to do a work session previous to those. Does council have any problem with us moving that in that form? Well, my suggestion would be later on in the meeting, we will be talking about planning and zoning board dinner. What if we had this work session at 5:30 before the planning and zoning board dinner, and we've got to talk about the date later on?
Schedule.
And because the date that's previously scheduled will not work for any of us.
Will the work session
17?
include the planning and zoning board members or just us?
No, I'm talking about 5:30 for us to talk about it. And then if we have questions, they would be there about 6:30.
The Planning and Zoning Board's already considered this one, so, yeah.
Council have anything? We'll talk about the date in just a little bit if you don't have any problem with us using this format.
That's good.
Okay. All right. Kevin, anything you want to say about that?
No,
Okay.
not this time.
Agenda adjustments. We do have one that came in late today. I need to add a item at the end of the agenda to consider a special permit for the hospital.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Hall.
Second.
second by Councilmember Aldridge. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Under announced delegations, number 5, Mr. Durham Lewis, CPA, with Lewis & Lewis CPA to present the fiscal year 17-18 Albemarle ABC system audit.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm Durham Lewis from Lewis & Lewis CPAs. We've conducted the audit for the Albemarle ABC board. You should have all been furnished a copy of it. I'd like to go over that with you now. If I could direct your attention to page 2, which is the second page of the opinion report after the page on the letterhead. I'd like to read the opinion paragraph for the record. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the City of Albemarle Board of Alcoholic Beverage Control as of June 30, 2018 and 17, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, cash flows thereof for the years then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. That paragraph indicates that I have issued an unqualified opinion on these financial statements, which is the highest level of opinion that can be issued, meaning, in my opinion, the financial statements are fair, not misleading, and free of material mistakes. If you could turn forward to page 5. These are condensed statements of net assets and condensed statements of revenue and expenses and changes in net position for the last 3 years. As you can see, the current assets have increased from $734,000 to $979,000, which is a 33% increase. Net position has increased by some 7.5% to $1,661,000. The next table is the table of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. Operating revenues for the year were $3,195,294, which is a 4.32% increase from the prior year. Taxes and cost of sales increased accordingly. Gross profit for the year was $809,094. Operating expenses remained fairly level at $459,507. Non-operating revenues were $101,847. Changes in net position, which is essentially the profit of the board, was $451,434. Distributions made by the board for the year totaled $333,291.
Will you take a question now?
Sure.
About something you just gone over? Just because it's dramatic. The change in non-operating revenue and expenses.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Okay, I've been called worse than that. 101 this year to 1,700 last year. And
The board sold a right-of-way for our parcel of land,
Okay.
and that makes up the non-operating revenue.
it was just a huge increase, so I just wanted
Right.
to make sure that I understood that. Thank you. Thank you.
If we'll move forward to the next page, page 6, Table 3 shows our capital assets. Total capital assets of $1,483,000, and as you can see, that's down from the prior year for the sale of the out parcel. The board had no debt for the year. The following page, page 7, is a statement of net position, which for the folks in the business world would call that a balance sheet. Shows assets, liabilities, and net position or equity of the board. Current assets total $979,439. The next section shows the capital assets, property, plant, and equipment, less depreciation. We have current liabilities of $204,446. And net position at year end was $1,661,000, which was an increase from the prior year. Next page is the Statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, which is essentially an income statement. Shows gross revenue of $3.195 million, less taxes of $736,000. Cost of sales, $1,649,592. Then our operating expenses, non-operating revenues, and distributions. Law enforcement distributions for the year was $18,038. Alcohol education and rehab distributions was $25,253. And profit distributions to the city was $290,000. The next page, page 9, is the statement of cash flows. And that essentially breaks down where the cash came from and where it went as far as revenues and expenses for the board. Cash at the end of the year was $612,221. And the large increase was, again, based on the sale of the out parcel. Following that are the disclosures, notes to the financial statements. If we could skip ahead to page 19. That shows the table in note 9 of the distributions that have been made by the board for the year and since inception. Current year profit distributions to the city were $290,000. From inception, it's been $1,682,000 that has been distributed to the city.
And the inception was when you first opened the doors in '98.
Correct.
Is that correct? So in 20 years, basically.
Page 20, note 10 will show the distributions of alcohol education and law enforcement, which are mandated by state statute at 5% and 7%. This year's contribution were $18,038 for law enforcement, $25,253 for alcohol education. The next note, note 11, shows the position of taxes payable at the end of the year. There was $63,483, which were all June taxes. All taxes paid are current. Page 21, the table shows bottle tax, county rehab tax, which is 1 cent on miniature bottles, 5 cents a bottle on all other bottles. That's paid over to the county to be spent on rehab facilities, and that totaled $9,938 for the year. Table after that is a breakdown of mixed beverage taxes, of which half of it is paid over to the North Carolina Department of Revenue and 5% paid to Department of Health and Human Services. For the year, there was $60,668 in mixed beverage taxes collected. If we can skip ahead to page 26, we have a schedule of store expenses, which is the detail of our schedule of our summary amount that was in the earlier statement. That shows our store expenses by individual line item. The following page is statement of administrative expenses, which again shows detail on the administrative expenses incurred by the board for the year. Page 29 is our scheduled distribution of profits, showing when and the amount of the checks that were paid for each of the various mandated distributions. And of course, page 30 is the budget, and the Albemarle ABC operated within budget for the year. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Last year, or earlier this year, the board came to us, and I'll look at the board if I need to, asking to increase their fund balance for future capital expenses. Were you able to reach the target you were looking for?
We have We have committed to $40,000 a year, so right now we're at $80,000 for our reserve fund.
Thank you.
We'll not look at that again until next fiscal year.
Thank you. Council, any further questions?
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
I would just commend them on their timeliness of getting this done.
Well, I thank the board for all they do.
Me too.
They run
Money.
a great operation. Thank you for all you do. Karen, you too.
Thank you.
Number 6, Mr. Howard Spencer, 451 Richardson Street, to speak concerning the condition of trees hanging over the street on Richardson Street.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I believe you have pictures before you concerning the condition of trees on Richardson Street. We need those trees cut back. There are a lot of dead trees in them on both sides. Last week, I believe it was a backhoe from the city was down there trying to clean up from where the water was flooding down in that area. It's dangerous. I like to walk a little while. Sometime I'll take my grandchildren for a walk, but I'm scared to walk down through there because of the trees that are dead down there. I don't need no rainforest, and that's what it looks like to me, a rainforest. I don't care nothing about a canopy. We have dumping down there.
Right.
And a lot of that is because you can't see. And I really would like for that stuff to be cut back. My neighbors with me, we want to walk down Richardson Street and clean up, pick up paper and all of that trash down there. But we can't do that for fear of limbs falling down on us. I don't want to get hurt. I'm getting old now. I can't stand all those aches and pains anymore. So I'm asking City Council, will they please do something about it?
There's a
Like I said-
sidewalk on which side of the road?
Sidewalk is on the
East side?
east side. No. The west side.
West side?
The west side. Sometimes you can't even see the sidewalk because of the overgrowth down through there. And it's in terrible condition. It's just in terrible condition. I don't even know when the last time I seen a vacuum truck come down through there. I guarantee it's probably been a couple of months since I seen a vacuum truck.
Who owns the property?
I have no idea.
It's on our right of way.
Question, does the company that we hire to trim limbs, would they not be the one to go over there and where we have the canopy and cut those back?
I think we need to go through there and look at the sidewalk. That would be Public Works,
Right.
and to see what needs to be done there. Now, as far as that tree's off the road a ways. I think it's going to be a private tree.
I
We need to find out who owns that property and see what we can work out with them.
I don't really, like I said, I don't know who owns the property. All I know is it's a dangerous situation.
They used to trim it back years ago.
They need to be cut back. Now, I'd look for a couple of those trees probably just to fall down. With all the water and the rain we've had, how the ground is saturated, which makes it another dangerous situation.
How far does our right of way go off that sidewalk or off the road?
That's a pretty wide street, and I would say that one has very limited behind the sidewalk, I would guess. Sorry, it's very limited behind
So just on the other side of the sidewalk.
Probably what was there was used up when we widened the street, put in the sidewalk, resurfaced part of the CDBG project on Richardson. And
Right.
That was some years ago.
but what right away was there was probably taken up to make the improvements and make the road
Looking
wider.
at this first picture, there's a utility pole.
Yeah, there is.
Stuck right in the middle. There's a wire going across from right to left. Y'all been fortunate not to have some other things occur. But would that not allow us to get? I don't know.
Staff can look at it and see if it meets our guidelines.
And I can't. I saw the picture too. I can't tell you. I would be without laying eyes on it, knowing for a fact I'd be willing to bet that's not a primary electric line, or else you'd have outages because of everything grown through
Right.
there. I mean, that could very well be I was going to say CTC, but Windstream line and pole, and they don't do trimming because they don't have the same issue
Right.
with, something touch. They can have a tree touching a line and not cause a problem. But I'd have to look and.
Well, I understand we got to do due process here, but also at the same time, there's genuine concern, and I'm empathetic to that concern of the well-being. So if we could move this thing along as quickly as possible and try to get an answer and get things accomplished, it would be, I think to Howard's point, would be beneficial and grateful for the neighbors over there.
We'll ask our staff to look at it and see what recommendations they do and what we can and can't do.
Well, I know last week when it flooded down there and the city backhoe was there clean up, they moved, I believe it was a pine tree out of the street from the east side. And I motioned for the guy that was driving the dump truck to come here. So he come across the water, and I said, what do you think about that? He said, you got a bad situation. You got some dead trees up in here.
I think one of the things we got to do is to figure out who owns all that property too. I mean, that's a big.
Property owners will have to be in agreement for us to do
we
both.
want to clean the street up, but we don't want to put our lives in jeopardy either.
Okay.
So I'm asking City Council if they could expedite this.
Gotcha.
We'll look at it and see what we can do.
And who will get back with me?
Mr. Ferris.
Okay.
Did they ever pick up them mattresses and stuff down there?
Yeah, so that's another problem. With all of that overgrowth, people, they feel like they're at the city dump.
Yeah.
Now, they picked up mattresses and stuff some time ago. Then up the street further, the truck was there a few weeks ago picking up some more junk. So, who's that?
We know what she was looking at.
But I just felt that I need to bring this full city council. Because,
We appreciate it.
Thank you, Howard.
all right, thank you.
Appreciate it, Howard.
All right, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Number 7, Fire Marshal Michael Rourke to review the Cannon Foundation grant awarded to the fire department.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Just wanted to update you all on the grant that the fire department was successful in getting. Some background information. Several months ago, some of us at the fire department, we formed a task group with Albemarle Police Department and Stanley County EMS and Stanley County Emergency Management as far as the city's response to any type of an active shooter situation. It's a hot button topic in the world of emergency services, so we want to look at our current capabilities and response. And one of the biggest shortfalls that we noted was the fire department's lack of personal protective equipment for those situations, being ballistic vests and helmets. So with the permission of Chief Oak and Manager Ferris, I was given the go-ahead to apply for a grant, chose through the Cannon Foundation, and we were successful in getting that grant. That grant will be for $12,000 and will outfit all of our seated positions as well as our staff vehicles with ballistic vests and helmets for our response to any type of active shooter situation or any type of call that we may get, medical call for a shooting, stabbing, assaults, anything like that, just to better protect our personnel when they're out responding to those incidents. And I do believe later on you have the ordinance for the amendment to allow that grant for us to expend those funds. So I'll be happy to answer any questions related to that.
Council have any questions? Thank you very much. We appreciate you applying for it.
Thank you.
We have no unannounced delegations. Your municipal calendar is in your agenda. Does anyone have any questions?
I just called to look at the month of January, and when I was looking through it, I realized I think we need a change there. It says on there that urban archery is January 17th through February 12th. I believe, and I've been wrong before and been told so, but I believe when we did the urban archery issue, we made it seasonal. So I think we just need to go back and look at some minutes to determine. I think we did. I think we said it was not just the urban archery in that 20-day period, but
I think
starting.
you're right.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That is correct. What that's showing on the calendar is the North Carolina Central Piedmont official urban archery season. That's when that season is held. That's a
Understand
broader than
that.
Albemarle. But you're right. If there is, say, deer hunting, the city council has changed our ordinances to allow that during, say, deer season to also be done through the means of archery.
Right, deer season in our region.
Right. So this is just the
I understand. I just wanted to, again, reiterate that for anybody that might watch this, just because it was a big issue at one point. Thank you.
Any other questions on the calendar? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to consent agenda. We need to remove number 12 from that, so we'll be approving number 9, 10, 11, and 13, if I have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Dry,
Second.
by Councilmember Aldridge. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Reason I pulled number 12, if you have not already, you should have received an invitation to the Monarch 60th anniversary, and that is on the 17th.
Right.
I think since we are going to have them here to celebrate them, I think we should, at least some of us should do our best to attend their celebration too. So I would think we would need to move the 17th meeting to another night. And I asked Kevin to look at a couple.
That hurts. No, I'm joking.
Did you look at a couple dates?
The 10th and the 24th are both available. I think for some of you, I know
Of what month?
of October.
Those are both
Be the
Wednesday
10th
nights.
being next week as well as the 24th. I think considering what we're going to go over and what some of y'all's schedules are, the 24th would probably work best out of those. But we can
24th
do.
work for
I'll be
everyone?
heading for New York with the community college on that day.
Okay.
If you can get everybody else, that's okay.
I
Well,
think
we
he
can-
needs to be here because he's very.
Yeah, I started to say, I think you probably need to be here for this one, Chris.
We can try to
What does-
rush everything together for the 10th then, I
What's
guess.
the 10th look like for everyone?
Fine.
Got a COG meeting.
You've got a COG meeting for me because I've got a risk management meeting.
All right. What else? What other dates do you want us to look at?
What's the only available one left?
I have to get off a Wednesday night.
Well, why don't we
About
go,
18.
or a Monday night that we don't have a meeting?
We could try a Tuesday night instead. I don't know if you guys have anything going on then, but I don't
Tuesday
think
night.
What's
there's
Monday
anything
night,
on
the
it.
22nd, look like?
Looks good.
That would be an off meeting for
It's
us.
an off.
Will you check with that tomorrow and see what,
Monday the 22nd?
Monday the 22nd?
I think that'll work, but I'll have to double check with them. Yeah.
Make sure it works for those.
Is that, you want to go ahead with that if that's what works?
If council is good with that, and the other date for the other meeting in April is,
17th.
April 9th. It's on there.
You have the,
19th.
April 17th. There, that's right.
April 17th, 2019. Does those two dates work for council? It's a long shot. We may have to change it later.
works for me.
Yes.
I'll make it work.
I'll entertain a motion.
So, second.
Motion by Councilmember Hall, second by Councilmember Dry. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
With that said, then, are you going to meet at earlier that night then to talk about that issue?
Council, earlier we talked about meeting at 5:30. Is that good with everyone to meet at 5:30 that night? If so, we will adjourn the 15th meeting to 5:30 on the 22nd. We won't need to know that until 2 weeks. But if that works tentatively works for everyone, that give us a chance to spend about an hour going over that set of zoning changes.
We're going to have to do that 2 or 3 times because I got that much stuff in my list.
And if we have to go, we can stop and do some more after the meeting.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Unfinished business.
Can we go back to 13, an issue that was in the consent agenda, okay? And we approved it, which was fine, but I don't want us to run over it without telling folks that are here and folks that will watch it that next week is Public Power Week. I mean, we try to make a big deal about it. So one of the things that we did was to consider a resolution with next week being Public Power Week, and we always take for granted, excuse me, many of the departments of the city. But each of our departments of the city is very important in what they do, and this is the week that they will showcase what it is they do within our community. Thanks. I just wanted to make
Right.
sure.
They will be going to all the schools too. Thank you. Council have any other questions? And I see Judy out here tonight.
No, Judy.
Mike, anything updates or anything we need to know about Public Power Day?
Week and going out.
The day of caring. Right.
There's an envelope in each of our packets which gives out what we're doing or what they're doing.
That's just go. It does not have the Public Day of Caring in it.
It does. The 12th.
Friday the 12th.
Friday the
okay.
12th is the day of caring.
Okay. Council, remember that because we will not meet again before then. Friday, October the 12th for the Day of Caring. We'll start here at City Hall and visit however many residences that the Senior Center is able to line up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Unfinished business number 14, update on the bamboo farming concerns. Mr. Robinson.
I was informed on this that the potential buyers have backed out on that deal at this time, so I don't know if there's any concerns on that property right now.
Okay. And you're still looking, if we do find something, you'll bring it to us.
Yeah, I mean, if it ends up happening and we need to do an ordinance, and so
I
be it.
noticed the for sale sign has been taken down on the property. Are you familiar with that?
Oh, it's back up. He says it's back up.
Okay, because I was there over the weekend and I noticed it had been taken down.
Have you heard anything different? We haven't heard anything. Okay.
Yeah, this is as of Friday is when I believe when I spoke with potential. Yeah, it was last Friday. That's when we heard about the sale falling through on that one. So,
Okay. If you hear further, contact Mr. Robinson. Let him know. We will. Thank you. Under new business, consider an amendment to the agreement with Pfeiffer University. Council, we have a section in our agreement with them that talks about reversion. We've reached out to our attorney that drew this agreement up for us. He said it was no problem for him to drop it, and he requested that we approve allowing staff to remove the reversion agreement and sign the agreement when he does that. Reason it's got to be removed, it comes as a letter of conditions from the USDA that it must be removed in order for them to get the money.
I move that we assign our whoever it is
Allow
to
staff.
remove whatever it is.
Allow staff to work with the economic development attorney that drew the agreement to remove the reversion. Motion by Councilmember Bramlett.
And everybody seconded.
Second by Councilmember Dry. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Very well said.
Motion carries.
All God's children.
Whatever that is.
Number 16, Chambers Engineering contract for the business park design. I sent it out to y'all early last week so you'd have a chance to review it. And I've heard no questions. Does anyone have any questions in regard to that? If so, Mr. Chambers is here to answer any questions. The changes that council asked to be changed have been changed on the front page. The additional charges in that are third-party charges that will have to be made to allow him to do the design. They have to be done, some of them first and some during the process. Does council have any questions?
I would like to table this till the next meeting.
Totally up to council. Council, what's your thoughts? You have any problem with tabling it? Yeah, we will table this to the next meeting.
Is there a reason?
Council usually gives just a gentleman's agreement to allow council member to ask for a continuance. So we'll continue to the next one.
Still learning. Okay.
And just FYI, that when you go back to look at it, look at page 30, page 34, 33 and 34. This is not big, but it's number 4 is left off of the agreement. And I'm not sure outside number D, where it talks about these are the reimbursable expenses.
What page?
It's at the top where you've got it, it's page 34. It's probably between 33 and 34, probably 34. But I think with Mark Donham not being here tonight, I appreciate your letting us to do that.
May I ask, has our attorney reviewed this completely?
I do. Mark was handling that. I can't answer.
Have you
Mark has
seen
not
this?
sent it to you yet.
Okay, I would like for his eyes to review it, please.
Okay.
Just,
Is he on going all week, Mike?
I think he's back either Thursday or Friday.
Thursday or Friday.
But if you've got it, if it's in the body of this, if it's in the body of the agenda packet tonight, then Mr. Beaver, you have it. I would appreciate you looking over it too.
Okay. We have the addition to the agenda is a request from the hospital for their Health Wave 5K, which will be on October the 7th. It'll last about 2 hours. They will be looking to close some of 4th Street and 5th Street. Council have any
Move approval.
concerns? Motion by Councilmember Hall to
Second.
approve. Second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Coming around the table, Mr. Ferris.
I don't have anything.
Mr. Townsend.
2 questions, and I guess I'll direct them to Kevin Robinson. Lucky man. First question is, when did we start allowing double wides in city limits? I seen on Leonard Avenue.
I saw that too the other day.
We've always allowed double wides. Double wides are manufactured housing, and that is allowed in R8 districts. Yeah, there's a
set of standards in terms of appearance and underpinning and some things, but as long as they're classified as a manufactured home,
right.
They are allowed in the R8 district. We don't allow the old-fashioned.
Well, we really don't even allow single wides, honestly. If the way that it's set up, they have to be a certain number of feet wide and a certain number of feet long, and really doesn't lend itself to a double wide, to a single wide. You have to have basically.
We came up with that ordinance. We cleaned it up to a point where to specify only modular units, and not include single wide and double wide.
Right. Yeah. Truthfully, modular is not even modular. I didn't touch it. I didn't really change much in the ordinance that we're talking about adopting. I didn't make any changes to definitions in that. This is what we've always had in there. Modular is really not addressed in there, to my knowledge. It's manufactured is addressed in there. We've treated modular basically the same way. There are some differences in them, but. Really, it's the single wide and the recreational type vehicles are what are prohibited.
I know we have at least one more in the city that's been there for years, but I'm not sure beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the same in the last week, but it did not look like it had been it looked like
hadn't been
nothing had been done to
anything.
it yet. It was just sitting there.
It was just new to me. I was
It
under
was new to
the
me.
impression that we only allowed modular units and not single wide or double wide.
They're allowed in R8, and that's up to council if you want to
was it brand new?
take a look at that.
It looks.
It's actually on is that the Habitat property?
See, it's beside where the Habitat, and I don't know if that's a Habitat property or not, but it's right there where those Habitat houses are.
Where are we talking about?
On Leonard.
On Leonard, yeah.
Yeah.
We've worked with them with that on that site there.
It's about
Yeah.
almost to the last stop sign going south on Leonard. It's almost at that intersection. Probably three parcels back. Isn't that about right?
Yeah, they had a long parcel there that was
Right.
They're probably going to be able to cut up into about 4 properties eventually. Yeah.
Could we call for a moratorium on that until we go through this newest?
We said it didn't change it.
Didn't change it.
I think, well, you're going to talk about it in about 2 weeks. Do we have any fears between now and then? I
don't have any
we'll talk
fears
about it
about
about 2
anything,
weeks,
but yeah.
You can talk about it that night.
Oh, God, and
We actually have, if you go some of the neighborhoods up off 52, we have quite a few more double wides that have gone there. The biggest difference is they're going on single lots. They're being treated as a single-family house. They do have to be underpinned. They do require skirting and a couple other things, so that they do resemble a single-family home and function essentially as a single-family home. Everything. Now I'll have to check out the one you're talking about. I know that they were just putting those in. I don't think they've gotten COs on those yet or anything. I'll have to double check. But basically, all the mechanical stuff, all the wheels, everything has to be removed. It has to function as a single-family home.
Okay, all right.
So,
my second question: I'm not sure about our ordinances and stuff, but I'm not used to seeing helicopters flying around and landing in a general area like behind office mats. How can we allow that?
That's one that I spoke with Nasser about that. Actually, when we found out about it, and he went over there, and there wasn't anything there at the time.
It's there now.
So okay,
yeah,
we've been trying to get over there while it's there.
It's there every evening.
Okay, every evening. Okay, but, yeah. No, there's. I mean, just on top of the land use stuff, there's some safety stuff there to be concerned with. So
he's not landing in that little lot like previously.
We address helipads. I think the only area we address helipads right now is in the HMD, the hospital district.
Did you stay at the hotel?
I don't know who helicopter it is, but they say
it's been doing that. I saw it several years ago.
Oh, really?
But he's here for a week.
It was there, and then I think it was. I remember hearing about it right after I got here, and I think it was gone for a while, and now it's showing back up again. So
I would check with that hotel.
Yeah. He's spraying around the area, and he's supposed to be here for another week, and then he departs.
So it's not a permanent thing.
No. This is an agricultural thing.
We got a Stanley County Airport. I don't care what period of time he's here. We can't allow that.
Okay.
I wondered about that.
Did you see him in that little field?
You need to look into restrictions on that. That might be FAA overrides us. You need to look into that.
Overrides us. So you got power lines all through there and everything else. I mean, it's
yeah. That's all I got.
Okay.
Ms. Hughes.
No comment.
Mr. Aldridge.
No, sir.
Ms. Hall.
Oh my! I guess I'll start with my list. First of all, in front of you, I asked Michael, and I appreciate it, particularly at his quick response, to give us what cash fund balances were. This is unofficial, and I said I understand that because we have not gone through the process of our audit yet. But this is where we are unofficially at the end of this fiscal year versus last fiscal year, and thank you for giving us that comparison. I just know that there's just, now that Pfeiffer is not a dream, Pfeiffer is here. We know that 2020, it's 2 years away, but it's not 2 years away. It's 15 months away. I think that we really have, it opened my eyes. I was excited when I heard it on Friday, but it really opened my eyes to about what is the city of Albemarle and this board and folks have elected to put up here to be ready when it comes and not be reactive, but to continue, gosh knows. Thank you all for being proactive as far as we have been. The community as a whole, I think, is thrilled with the folks sitting up here and how we work together. We may not always agree on things, but I feel like that, and I've heard several of you say it, not just in the last 7 days, but in the last 3 months. We have a short window of time, and that short window of time is going to be determined by what happens within our 10 blocks down here. And Pfeiffer is going to be the catalyst for every bit of that. So that's one of the reasons I asked for this, because I'm not sure, and Michael, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I don't know that you can tell us when our audit will be completed. And it's okay. And
I'd have to ask Miss Conroy. She may have a better idea. It seems like we usually get the presentation with this new audit maybe in December. Has that been? This will be their third year, so.
God, I can't believe it, third year. Jeez. Is that right?
Yes, it's usually early in December, but we have not received the report from Kavanaugh McDonald on the OPEB liability yet.
Okay, so that's not included. It is included, but our liability, we wouldn't be able to see our liability on this.
No, and that they've kind of changed the laws a little bit, and so we can't even move forward until that comes in. I've called them a couple times, trying to prod them, but there's a lot that had to be done this year. A lot of other municipalities as well. So they said it could be mid-October before we get that information. We have to include that in the audit, so, it could be even a little bit later.
And thank you for that, and thank you, Mr. Ferris, for what you've given us here. I guess it has just been really heavy on me thinking that we have got to make the best of what we have right now and whatever else we need to do. And we've done well, and I just give everybody credit, the mayor particularly, when he's gone out and tried to find and to be able to answer and to be able to meet all of those, not requirements, but suggestions that Pfeiffer made of us when we, and I think we've done a good job. But by hearing Ms. Conroy and Mr. Ferris, we can't wait, in my opinion, to move forward with anything else that we need to do financially or just in planning until we get that audit. We can't do that. Because if we do, then 2020 will only be 12 months away. So I don't know where that brings us. I know that we've talked about wanting to see First Tryon again to look at some things, and I know we really might not want to, or they may not want to come to us until the audit is done. And I'm really just talking off the cuff, but this is stuff that's really been not bothering me, but very, very heavy on my heart.
The biggest thing we have with Pfeiffer is that our agreement with them was that we would provide the parking, and that's what we have got to do. Now, we're in the process of trying to get a final design on the Morrow property. One of the reasons we cannot get a final design, and Steve's sitting back here, they've got to have a survey of the property to know where the floodway is before we can determine exactly how many parking spaces we can get on there. Right now, they've got a design that's going to get about 70 on there. But,
70?
Yes, but hopefully, depending on exactly where the floodway is, we hope to be able to go on the other side of the creek with some more. We may not until we know where the floodway is. Okay. So that's the next thing, and Kevin has given Steve authority to go ahead and move ahead, because we had it in the budget to do the survey so we can get a final design, and we'll know exactly what we're able to get on that property. After that, then we'll have to start looking for the other spaces. You were provided the parking study, and we talks about all the spaces in there. A lot of them are on street parking spaces, and we can always look at that. And then we've bought a lot on PD that can get about 23 in it. And then council will have to decide later on what to do with that building. It might be that we end up using it for some education, depends on what Pfeiffer needs, or it might be that we end up needing it for parking. But we will not know that until later down the road, after talking with Pfeiffer, that they do not know, probably for another year or more, what they're going to be able to do, because they want to bring more programs down here. And I was talking to Chris about that earlier, but we don't know exactly when that commitment will be made.
And I guess just to be completely transparent to folks who watch this and listen to this or read about it, people over the weekend said, okay, this is our chance. And they may not realize that was our big commitment, was the parking. And I appreciate finding that parking study, because I remember last week, I was on council, and I can't remember who was on council then when that parking study was done. It had to be found. So thank you for finding that.
I was on the board of ADDC.
So you remember it.
I remember it very well, and the mayor and I have discussed some elements of that parking study.
Very good. So,
very well.
We've had it. It's time to pull it off, dust it off, and not use it as a bookend, and realize that's what was there then, and capitalize on what else we can do. Again, I'm sorry to continue to beat this to death, but it's just been very, very, very heavy.
Yeah.
Yes, can she?
Just the survey, do we have any idea time frame? Are we a week out, 2 weeks out, a month out?
What survey?
Steve, you got any idea how long the survey and how the floodway will work?
Sam, we're going to ask. I'm not sure the time frame.
Yeah, I would guess you're probably looking at a couple months. By the time he gets the survey, gets it back, figures out the floodway, gets approval to see where he can put something in there, and then does the final design. It's not going to be quick.
Right. So I think that just helps us also, and for people to hear, 2 months, okay, so that's kind of an expectation.
Council, remember that you approved in the budget
Right.
Design in this fiscal year.
Right.
Construction starting after July.
Right.
So you have some time as far as what you're going to end up with there.
But the planning of the, how many, 200, 220
200, I think, is what we.
parking spots?
But if, and Chris brought up an interesting point today, if they bring these other programs in here, we may be looking at 300.
I know.
We just don't know. It's too much. The target, it's kind of a moving target right now.
Okay, then I'm going to, you got something on that?
No. I was just going to add that we've also identified some other on-street opportunities down on South 4th as well, and possibly even on 3rd. So we're looking at those and trying to figure out what else we can add into it. And I'm pretty comfortable we can get those numbers up pretty good. So.
Okay.
I'd like to just add that I think that's a great point. I know I've talked with some of the other council people about the opportunity to utilize the on-street parking where we can.
I think we have a lot of underutilized space where we can squeeze in 10 here, 15 here, and you can make up for those numbers pretty quick.
Before you know it, you've got a couple hundred spots.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been working on that and looking at that.
Good. And again, I know that staff might be working on it unless it hits me in the head.
Mm-hmm.
I might not, and I just know that folks are going to be asking now because it's not like a dreamboat anymore. Stay right there, though. Question, if I may continue. We're supposed to be getting help from COG once a week. How's that going?
That's going well right now. Yeah, and it's been great having James in here once a week on Tuesdays, and we are working on your ordinance right now for commercial maintenance code. Yeah,
Good.
we've got that. We've got Tyler Mulligan up at COG looking into that. There's a new
COG or School of Government?
Not COG, School of Government.
I thought, wait a minute.
SOG, not COG.
That's right, SOG, COG.
There's a new statute that came out on receivership, and we're trying to figure out how we can work that into the ordinance as well. It could be a really useful tool, but nobody's really. I think it just went into effect this month, and nobody's really utilized that yet. So we're kind of in uncharted territory with that.
So that was going to be my next question about the commercial code, but that's great. So you might be reading my notes from across there. But James has been here on Tuesdays, and we're working well toward even next year's list.
Absolutely.
Okay. In-house zoning. Just FYI, the Mara property down between 3rd and 4th. I was really paying attention to that today. I'm sure y'all have seen this, but we got bamboo growing down there. A lot of bamboo growing down there. Yeah, I sort of stared. I'm thinking new bamboo was on there.
You think I get my fishing pole?
I thought so.
I want a little boy.
We were looking for an expensive opportunity to get rid of it.
And is it Rock Hole, or what's that road that comes up on Wisconsin?
Rock Springs.
Rock Springs. I was down that again in the end of last week, and there's some spots that look like they're a dumping territory again.
That's.
In the corner, as well as that one house.
We just cleared up. Public Works had to work to, and with the police department's help, identify some illegal dumping that had happened.
Right.
And brought in, got that cleared up, and
there's some more.
That is an ongoing,
I know it is.
regular spot. That's a tough one. Stay on it though.
Yep. And lastly, I just want to give a shout out to Ross. It was in the preparation that all the city and their respective departments were doing for the storm. I didn't know it was illegal, but saw a lot of debris on the side of the road, on a road in town, where if enough water got behind this debris, it would have ended up in the middle of a large intersection. And I called Michael, I think, or sent Michael a text or something, and he got Ross on it. And by the time I came back by it that same morning, Ross was right there, and it had been where someone had been illegally dumping large tree limbs and that type of thing. So a shout out, and again, it was all of our departments just do what they need to do and do it well. And the last thing I have is that I would like to, I want to go into a closed session, but I'll ask for that at the end for just a moment to ask an update on something. So I'll ask for that.
Mr. Dry?
Chief, if those of you didn't get to community night out, that was a great, big, fun thing last weekend. I think we've hit a place that's going to work well. The attendance was good, so you guys did a great job, and I think everybody out there had fun doing a lot of different activities. And secondly, I'd like to thank Dr. Keith, her board, for the confidence they've shown in Albemarle to allow this to happen, and their confidence in us to work with them to make sure that it happened. And I know there were times that we drove in the dark, but we kept driving towards the end that we've seen to this point. But it's not the end, it's just the beginning. And what we know of Albemarle yesterday, the Albemarle of tomorrow is going to be quite different. And I think we all, as it starts to come about, will be even more proud of our community and what resources we have that have been able to come together to make this happen. And when you look out, it's all the departments, everybody associated with this city has jumped in to make this thing happen. It's just not us sitting up here without your help and your guidance. It's helped us make our decisions not always easy, but a lot more practical to make this thing come about. Thank you very much.
Just a couple of things. I'll try to be quick. Last week I attended the Night of Hope at the Agri-Civic Center. It was Cardinal Health, Atrium, and some local community groups that got together to basically work to address opioid addiction, those problems. They had, just quickly, they had several testimonials, people that were recovering. They had health department speak, they had groups speak, and I thought it was pretty interesting. By then, at that time, I had not heard yet that Monarch had received that grant to address mental health and substance abuse. So it's good to know that there are groups that are actively meeting in the public and trying to address these issues. And I think we ought to keep in mind as a city council anything that the city could do to help with that, other than law enforcement, which does a great job. Chief was there for that. So, and my phone just went off. Hold on just a minute. Okay. Substandard housing. I haven't heard anything lately. These houses that we're removing.
I asked Kevin today. They just finished getting all the asbestos bids in, and they're completing that, and then hopefully the asbestos has been removed. So now we're waiting on the fire department to schedule the burning.
7 of them right now.
Golly bum.
Yay.
It'll take a little bit of time now because you have to do that training over a period of time. And I'm not going to speak for the chief, but I would say you're looking at probably a few months to get all those burnt.
All right, as long as we're burning them. The RPO projects that we talked about last time, the bike ped projects that you decided to leave on there, those were submitted last week to the state. Now they're down the road a ways getting done, but I wanted to let you know that one of them was modified. It was one from West Main to Snugs. Apparently they've redesigned it, and the cost of it now, instead of $1.6 million, is $550,000. So they pretty dramatically changed the scope of it. And I think it's just on one side of the street, and they must have stopped it up
Basically,
there.
I think they stopped where we were debating. We asked them to go on. They went ahead and just stopped it.
I just wanted to know, in case you saw something you didn't look familiar, that the cost of that one was reduced, which reduces our match, which is good. I want to mention the community night out also. That was really good to see that kind of a crowd. And just, I'll put this out there for the record, I've had another comment on the sign down at the business park, and their statement was, y'all just bought that. Why do you have it for sale? So, we keep getting those. So, that's it.
Mr. Bramlett, have anything? Anyone in the audience have anything to bring before council?
East Main Street. Can you update folks on what the status of East Main Street is?
Mike, will you do that?
Yeah.
Sure. That's a North Carolina Department of Transportation resurfacing project that is scheduled to go from approximately 5 points to where the 24-27 widening project will begin, which is about in the vicinity of the Parks and Recreation's Niven Center. The bid has been awarded to J.T. Russell's. I think they have actually several more months to get it completed, but they had thought they were going to start it earlier, at least what the DOT had told me. They're now looking at starting it maybe at the end of October or early November, I think is what I reported to council last week. So they've got to do some patching and some repair work. You've probably seen out there where some of the worst areas have been marked and identified for some of that repair. So they'll go in and do that, and then they'll do the resurfacing. So that's the latest I have from the state about where that project stands.
Let me make one comment on that, too. Just so y'all know, that project was not scheduled this soon, but some feedback from council, complaints that y'all got about how bad that was. I went back and mentioned that at RPO, and Stuart Basham at RPO cornered me last week and said because of us bringing that to him, he had the maintenance part of DOT, their maintenance division or whatever, reevaluate that, and they moved it up to this year. So it could have been 2 or 3 more years down the road.
Let's complain some more.
Well, I know, but if you see things that are legitimate concerns like that, we can take it to them. They'll look at it. They may not do anything, but in this case, they did. So, we want to make sure if we do have a concern, we bring it to their attention, and they will evaluate it, and some will win and some we won't. But that one got moved up.
Definitely worth a shot.
Yeah.
I've got to put in a plug. I've got to put in a plug for the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Albemarle is getting its fair share and then some of projects right now. The 24-27 bidirectional median safety projects going on. Within that, they've agreed to do the city's portion of the Leonard Avenue widening and realignment. They've started the project to widen 24-27 to the river. As we've just talked about, they're resurfacing East Main Street, which has been a big issue for a while. So Albemarle is getting a lot of attention from the state. And the fact that we have those out there, and as somebody said, we've kept them in front of them for a while, and all of a sudden, as Councilmember Whitley said, the window of opportunity opened. They found they needed to do something in a short period with some funding, and because this project had been in front of them, it moved up 2 or 3 years from where it had originally been. So it's good that we have a good relationship with them, which we do, and we keep these projects in front of them.
Anything else, council? I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn to our next regular scheduled meeting.
I thought we had
There is no update for that. I know what you're talking about. There is no update to give us, so there's no use in calling a closed session.
Oh, okay.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I just don't want to lose sight of some things.
so moved. Is that
Motion by Councilmember Hughes. Second by Councilmember Bramlett. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.